Hello everyone and welcome back to another video for Case Me a Christmas Card. Today my guest is Ceal Pritchett and this is the card that I'm going to be showing you how I made today. So let's start with the holly. So I'm using this stamp set from Picket Fence Studios. It's called Holly Jolly Christmas and I'm going to be starting with some Fabriano watercolour paper. So I'm just lining this up into my Misty and I'm going to be stamping this in Picket Fence Studios black hybrid ink pad because I intend to do some watercolouring over the top of it. Because the card that I am doing a case of included some watercolouring. Okay, so I'm going to stamp this 4 times. Each time I actually double stamped it because I wanted to make sure that the black was nice and dark and intense. And then I got out the matching die and I sent it through my die cutting machine to cut each of these out. Now, as you can see, I've got 4 of them, but I ended up only using 3 of them, but I always prefer to have more than I want just to make sure. So I'm getting out some Distress ink, not Distress Oxide, so that's unusual for me, but Distress ink. And here I have Festive Berries, Abandoned Coral, Lucky Clover, and Pine Needles. So I'm just going to smush these. I'll start with the reds, smush them onto my work surface. And I'm going to start with just a light all over wash of the paler of the 2 colours. And you can see I'm just not taking much care here. I don't care if I stay in the lines. This is just very quick and easy watercolouring. And then I'm taking the darker colour while it is still wet and just adding that to one side of the berries. So I wanted it to blend in, but for one side of the berries to be slightly darker than the other. And then I heat set that before I moved on to the green because I didn't want any of the red leaking out into the green on the leaves when I painted them. So here I've got, again, 2 different colours of green. Again, I'm just going to start with a very light wash of the paler of the 2 greens. So this is the Lucky Clover that I'm using here. And just, yeah, very quick and simple watercolouring. I'm absolutely not a watercolourist at all, not even close. But I just wanted it to look fairly simple. So once I'd done all those, I just swiped the darker colour, the pine needles, down the centre of each of those leaves. So I wet the leaf again first, swiped the darker green down the middle so that it would sort of bleed out but be darkest in the centre. And yet again, I heat set it because I'm impatient. All right, here is the card of Ceal's that I'm going to be casing today. So she actually used a stamp that included all those flowers and the little black border in amongst it, and she cut the middle out using a coordinating die. I believe this stamp set is from Concord and 9th. I wanted to go for the same look, but of course I didn't have a stamp that had the border in it, but I wanted that border. So I've got this die, which is the Fine Frames Rectangles die, and it's from Altenew. And usually what I do is I actually cut this out and you end up with heaps of borders. I just keep them in a little plastic folder so that I have them for future use. So I've now got a whole heap of the black borders in a little folder for myself. All right, so I'm just getting my Hero Arts liquid ink, liquid glue. And this one is actually running out, so you're going to get sick and tired of me shaking it because every time I picked it up, I had to shake it down to make sure I got glue out of the tip. I really need to get some more of this. And I'm just placing this down. Now, these frames are very, very fine. And this particular thickness is not even the thinnest of the frames that you get from this die. So you have to be careful when you actually stick it down to get it in the right spot. That's why liquid glue is good, because if you get it in the wrong spot, you can sort of nudge it in the right direction. All right, now I spent ages trying to arrange these holly leaves and berries onto this card. So I cut the vast majority of that out of this video because it would have been seriously a half-hour video if I'd kept all of it in. But what I wanted to do was have 3 sort of biggish clumps of berries and leaves, and I wanted to make sure that the berries actually ended up on the card rather than just the leaves onto the card. And I've just put them on, and I'm going to cut the excess off. However, that excess is not going in the bin, because what I'm going to do is just find small bits of those excess pieces that I'm cutting off right now, and then I will find another spot for them on the card. So there were a couple of places on the card that I thought, I think I could do a little bit more, but I didn't want to cover up that black border, that black frame very much. So I wanted them to be relatively small pieces that sort of covered up the white around the edge but didn't cover up too much of that black frame. And I think I did okay with doing this. Some of the bits I had to sort of do a bit of surgery on them. Like this one, I decided to cut off a part of the leaf, so I was just left with the berries. So you'll see me do this right now. Decided that one was a bit too big. See, I told you, it took me ages to figure out what to do with this one. Here we go. I'm cutting that little bit off, and I'm going to add that. But so you can see some of the frame still left. And there we go again with shaking the glue bottle. See, I have a problem with liquid glue, and the problem is not the liquid glue, it's me, because I always add too much. It always splodges out the side. I always end up with glue all over my fingers and all over the craft mat. I just need to tell myself, use less, use less. Anyway, I'm going to be adding this sentiment, which is also from Altenew. This is the Warm Blessings stamp set, and I thought the Happy Holidays stamp fit quite nicely into the space that I had available. And it's just at this point that I decided to make it a landscape card. Up until this point, I was thinking of making it a portrait orientation card, but changed my mind just because of this sentiment. And then, of course, I needed to add some sequins because it's a Christmas card. And yeah, I add sparkle to Christmas cards. So out came my favourite sequins, the Iridescent Moonshine. You've seen me use these before, from Picket Fence Studios. And that is this card for today. So thank you very much to Ceal for being my guest today and for providing this inspiration for me to use. And thank you very much for everybody for watching. I hope to see you back again for my next video. Bye.